Hi everyone, this is the Second Breakfast Club reporting again from the BTS conference, and right now I'm with
Nyke.
Hi. So I wanted to know more about your research and what you're doing. Like, what's your thing? What are you doing here?
So my research is actually based in Afro-Asian history and identity, and looking at blasian families. Especially ones that raise their kids in Korea. They're born and raised in Korea.
Cool.
And that all kind of started out of me like being in East Asian culture for a long time, and then especially being in Korean culture for a long time, most of my life, wondering, well, how do you raise a Black kid in Korea?
Yeah, absolutely.
And kind of like, how does that work with ethnic identity? And then there's pride, and then there's racism and all of that. And then also kind of how it goes well with popular culture of Korea.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing a lot of research on what has come into play with not just hip hop, but also Motown, and how Motown was kind of the background and the formula for K-pop, the K-pop industry essentially, and how they either combat racism or reinforce it,
Yeah.
or even just how they have similarities even within culture.
Yeah, absolutely. So you lived for a while in Korea? Or?
I actually have not lived for a while in Korea, but I've lived in Koreatown.
Oh, gotcha.
So yes, because I'm from LA, we still have the largest Koreatown.
Gotcha.
And of course, one of the largest Korean populations outside of Korea. And it's always interesting, even when I talk with like a lot of my Korean American friends who, still have family in Korea and stuff. When they go back, they're always like, the best Korean food is actually in Koreatown in LA.
Right.
There's like, you have the home of Korea, the authenticity of Korea, but the taste of LA. That's so funny. So I was like, I'll have to test that when I go. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then how has BTS been factored into that research?
So one of the main things of which I'm actually talking about today is their first reality show and kind of how they started. And basically, if they had not had the validation of the greats, essentially, mm-hmm. of Warren G and Coolio, they could not have been kind of bypassed that race part. Absolutely. In hip hop.
And you're talking American Hustle Life.
Yes, yeah. American Hustle Life. And kind of even on that, as much, a lot of people say it's very cringy. There are a lot of people who haven't seen it. Yeah. There are some people who say they won't watch it for some reason, because I'm like, it's a reality show. Like, yeah. it's whatever. There's a lot of elements of humility and authenticity. And even when, when they deal with Coolio and when they deal with Warren G, both artists are pretty much like, don't lose who you are. And even in the last episode when, they're thinking, if you ever watch it, this was going to happen. There's no plot twist. In the last episode, when they go to, they basically work and they're told they're going to make money for their concert. And so they're like, yes, we made like $200, we made $500, it's going to be so great. And their mentors are like, no, we're going to take this money, we're going to go buy food, and we're going to feed Skid Row.
Yeah.
And at first they were like, you're going to do what with what? This is my money. I worked hard for this money. And they're like, no, this is the real hustle. Right. You're always going to give back. You're always going to remember who you are. And then even staying there to listen to a lot of the homeless population, even when BTS reacts to like what was happening, they're kind of like, wow, like I never really thought of LA like this. I never really dealt with this kind of thing, but it kind of reinforced a lot of what they were standing for, even from the beginning.
Absolutely.
And even with them utilizing hip hop, there was the whole element of youth revolt, the whole element of speaking truth to power, and all of that was very much like it all fit. And I see why they chose hip hop over maybe trying to do a more rock sound, or even going straight into like almost cookie cutter pop or something like that. So I do a lot of that.
That's very good. I'm also someone who likes American Hustle Life. Mm. A lot of people do find it cringy, but I genuinely think we would not have the HYYH era without American Hustle Life.
Oh, definitely not.
Because without the lessons from especially Warren G, mm-hmm. I have a feeling we'd still have Bulletproof Bangtan today.
Yes. And that's one of the things that I found like very interesting with BTS and seeing how they were kind of separated from a lot of other K-pop idols. They made the same mistakes that other K-pop idols made. And aside from Big Hit, you know, knowing how to write a good apology letter and also learning from those mistakes, they got firsthand learning from the mistakes.
Yes.
It wasn't like a public outcry of you need to do this, this, and that, or it wasn't death threats. Mm-hmm. It was literally them meeting with Warren G and Warren G being like, you can be in hip hop and not be Black.
Right.
But here's what you need to understand.
He's like, well, why are you talking about Harlem?
Exactly,
like,
exactly. Why are you saying West Side till I die? Like, you don't know what that means. And also giving, especially RM, the agency to be like, I can do this and not have to be Black.
Absolutely.
I can do this and still like stand for something. And I remember even RM said this in a later interview where Warren G kind of like took him to the side and was saying, you know, all that stuff about, you know, like gold chains and money and girls and all of that. It's like, that's not really hip hop. All the gang stuff, it's not really hip hop. It's just something that kind of comes along with the territory because we always get one or two of those people who want to do it. But he's like, you don't have to do that. And in fact, this is what real hip hop is. We are, you know, conscious of what's going on. In fact, that's what made us famous is because people didn't want us to say what was going on.
Exactly.
So, and I, you know, found that very true, even from them starting off as Bulletproof Boys and getting into now Beyond the Scene.
Absolutely.
Like a lot of that is still very much there. And I love that they still pay homage to it. And one of the things that I find interesting too is that even with certain things that may happen in the fandom that may be racist or anything like that, most of the like Black fans who feel like a lot of anti-Blackness, they will still back BTS.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They will call out the fandom, but they will still back BTS. And I think that's very interesting to see. And I'm glad that people can separate certain things and not be like, oh, it's just all one lump of stuff. So, and I'm glad that BTS has learned from those mistakes.
Yeah.
And they're not still making them. Like, I know people were trying to say something about J-Hope's like gel twist in Chicken Noodle Soup. And granted, I didn't necessarily like the gel twist, but it was more so because I didn't like how they looked on him. It looked like someone just like tried to do something in like the last 10 minutes of the video shoot. But he, you know, but he's one of those where you'd be like, well, he wouldn't like Black culture, but not like Black people.
Yeah.
And that's what I find like the most interesting about BTS is in their, when they navigate all these different spaces and all these different communities that they may not necessarily be a part of, they still know how to be themselves, which is what everyone's like, yes, this is why we love you. But they also know how to be respectful.
Yes.
So it, you know, gives them their credence. And I really
like this big energy of we will make mistakes, tell us and we'll fix it.
Exactly. Instead of trying to, because I've been a K-pop fan for a long while, where I've seen a lot of idols, especially the ones that are supposed to be like the cultural interpreters or like I'm the ambassador because I'm not Korean or I'm Korean American kind of thing. They still either don't know or they're unaware. And then because they've had so much come onto them, they kind of hop back with the anger. And it's like, no, this is a moment for you to learn.
Right.
Just learn, realize that like, no one's going to hate you forever.
Yeah.
If this was like a legitimate mistake and you actually apologize for it, literally they're going to be like, oh, okay, at least you learned from it. Yeah. That's the whole point. We want you to learn from it. So with BTS being able to do that very early on in their career, it made them have the room and opportunities to do other things and not have to like backtrack and like, oh, we have to fix this. Oh, we have to fix that. It's like, no, you fixed that in 2014.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You didn't have to fix it in 2019 when you were really on the world stage.
I was going to say, thank goodness.
Right.
Didn't immediately get a ton of popularity and then American Hustle.
Exactly. And I think also too with them, doing American Hustle Life, it gave them, and I like applaud Bang Hyuk for that, it gave them all of these contacts
Yes.
So it's not like, oh, all of a sudden, which is how interesting how like Korea kind of perceives their success as being like, oh my goodness, like they're actually a good group. Like this is a good group. And it's like, but they come out in 2013. Like they've been out for a while. They worked for this.
They just had to find their brand.
Exactly. And so it's like really interesting because that was a part of their whole identity formation.
Yeah.
So it's really good.
Yeah, I find it so interesting that it's this Korean group who have kind of become the students of the old rappers. Mm-hmm. Whereas you see a lot of even American rappers today aren't learning lessons from those who came before them. And
that was actually the most interesting about American Hustle Life. They didn't collaborate with like, even though like I'm not downing T-Pain because he does have a mindset for the community and his people, but they didn't learn from someone like T-Pain. Mm-hmm. They didn't learn from Chris Brown. They like what they went to, and then they also went to the West Coast instead of the East Coast. Yeah. So with that, it's like they were learning from conscious rappers, and what I'm actually going to talk about today is even in the homework and the missions that they were given, it was very much like, how do you think consciously about what you want to say?
Absolutely.
And how are you consciously thinking about what's going on in the world? Like what do you really want to say? And how do you want to say it? And even then, like when people talk about, BTS writing their own lyrics and all of that, that was the first moment that I ever saw them really write their own lyrics. Yeah. Warren G was like, write about your life.
Yeah.
Over like, yes, we'll give you the music.
What power are you speaking to?
Right.
What problems do you want to change?
And then even in that, it was like, all of them were very much like, well, I want to talk about how hard I worked as a trainee. Yeah. I want to talk about how I had to leave my family and things like that. So it wasn't even like, oh, well, we won. Because this was actually, American Hustle Life came out after they had won Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
So it wasn't them like, oh, well, let's talk about how we won Rookie of the Year this year. Like, oh, we got this and we have this concert now in LA, or we're in LA. Yeah. Kind of thing. It was very much like, no, I really want to. And I think it was Jin who constantly kept saying this, where he was like, I really want to. It was Jin and Suga who were like, we really want to almost like own hip hop. But own hip hop is ours. Like, but in a sense of like, how do I actually fit in this space? And how do I grow within it? Instead of it just being something either given to me or something that I've learned, it's really like, how is this mine?
Yeah. How do I become a good hip hop artist while respecting my ancestors?
Right, exactly. And you see a ton of that all throughout the show, minus all the cringy stuff. Because yes, there was very much a lot of cringe with RM feeding one of the girls grapes. So it's like, just no. Like, no. I mean, I get what they were trying to do, but you didn't need that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So my final question then would be, for people who want to follow your research, follow what you're doing, how would you like them to contact you, or where can they look for updates from you?
Yes. So right now I'm like all over Instagram. So you can find me at MY2BAEK1, which is my Ibegwan. And it's basically what I say is my 2 cents in Korean currency on Afro-Asian identity.
Very cool.
So that's really what it is. Because everybody takes my 2 cents and goes everywhere. And of course, my website is the same. So you will find that. And that actually opens sometime this month. So we're going to get it. I've been working on it for 2 years. So there's a lot of stuff that's been written and all of that, because it's like all of the ideas flowing out. And I will probably put like a little bit of this on, especially the BTS one on the website, but we'll see what happens, because if it's going to be published, I don't want to, jump the gun.
There's some talk right now about like, what are we supposed to do in terms of copyright?
Exactly.
But excellent. I'll also link in the description so that you guys can easily find these. And by the time it's published on YouTube, your website might be up.
Yeah.
So check it out. See if it's there.
Please do. And of course, I love that. The reason why it's called My 2 Cents is because I love conversation. So I don't want it to be just like almost like a lecture on the internet where it's like you read my blog post and then you're like, okay, that was nice. Do I have any questions? No. I want you to engage with it. Tell me if there was something else you saw in anything I write about, or something else that you're thinking about. or what I made you think about, that'd be fine too.
Awesome. Well, I definitely hope that people come and give you their 2 cents.
Yes,
as well.
please. We can make $1.
Right? Maybe $3.
Right.
But yeah, so thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you.
And we're going to go on and try to interview more people, but
there's lots of cool talks here.
Absolutely.
So, definitely.
So look forward to more. And thank you. And goodbye to you guys. Bye.
Bye.